Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another week at Beyond the Trailer Park. Joining us, as always, from the wilds of Pennsylvania, Beth is with us. Good evening.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey, how's it going over there?
It's getting a little chilly. I miss
tell me
the
about
warm.
it.
Well, no, I don't miss it too much. I miss the nice weather, not the super warm. I like the 70s.
The comfortable
50s
stuff.
I could do. Yeah, the comfortable stuff. Yeah, it was a little chilly today, actually.
Well, glad you can make it. Morgan has a midterm tomorrow, so unfortunately she won't be with us. We're hoping Tracy would make it, but not finding her right now. So hopefully she will get here with us shortly. But in the meantime, also from another part of Pennsylvania, I'd like to welcome our guest this evening, Courtney Lynn. Good evening.
Hi.
We like to call it Pennsylvania.
You know what? That's 100% accurate.
I've spent enough time in Beth's neck of the woods that I can vouch for that as well.
Yep.
I drive through Pennsylvania a lot. Well, not a lot, but regularly. I don't really stop any longer than to visit with her.
It's a beautiful state, but don't talk to the people.
Yeah. Beautiful mountains. Saw a really cute deer the one time we were through, you know. We didn't talk to it either, but it was, you know, in the middle of the night. So, and we were on a motorcycle, so we didn't really want to get kicked in the face or anything. So.
Yeah, probably not a good idea.
Exactly. But that's all right. But yeah, I mean, it could be worse. It could be Morgan's in Mississippi, so she's.
Yeah, it could be Mississippi. At least we have Pittsburgh and Philly as our outlets, so we're good.
Yes. We're. I don't know. There was the PastaCon this past weekend. Did you manage to get to that or no?
No. I've been dealing with car issues. So.
Oh, that always sucks. Oh well. Yes, that's such as I kind of wish I went to that one now because all my friends went to that one. I was like, oh, I'm a dummy. I had to go to Milwaukee. It was so worth it. But well, to be fair though, I did get to hang out with Bryce and Jenica and some other people, and Courtney wouldn't know this, but I got to meet one of my first online atheist friends that I have been friends with for 11 years and never met. So that was kind of cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Hi, Ben. But anyway, so Courtney, you are an author, but you're not just any author, you're kids author, which I think is really cool. So first of all, because Beth, when she gave me the write-up, it mentioned how your particular story lent itself more to you wanting to be a kid's author. So let's start with, were you religious, and if so, what flavor?
I was religious. I was actually raised Lutheran. We were very involved in the church. My mother used to teach weekday church school. So we were pretty involved, but it's like Catholic light. So it wasn't too bad. But, you know, as I got older and started questioning things, and then I watched Religulous. And honestly,
movie.
That movie changed my life because I never knew half the shit that Bill Maher was talking about. Because when you grow up in that environment and it feels so loving and welcoming, you don't think to question it. So when he started bringing up all these different, religions who had, stories similar to Jesus, I was like, nah, that's a lie. Because this was before Facebook. So this was before the big internet boom. So you actually had to do physical research in a library.
Oh, who wants to do that?
Right? It's like, ooh, who wants to go do that and do the whatever those index
Dewey Decimal system.
Yes. So nobody wants to do that shit, right? In high school, I was like, yeah, fuck that, whatever. So.
We have no kids present. You can say fuck that.
So we, I started looking at things and questioning, and for a very long time, I was an agnostic theist. So to where I was like, I still kind of want to believe, but I'm not sure. So I was like in that middle phase. And then one day I was just like, I'm an atheist. And it was just like one of the most free, it's so weird because it's so freeing that it just made me wake up, and I'll be forever grateful for that moment.
Oh, for sure. Oh, Beth just says that her internet service provider is fading in and out, so she's she can only hear some of us, so she may have to duck out and come back in again. Okay. So if you see her disappear, no, not to worry. She's trying. The problem mainly is that she shares with the building she's in or the library next door, so
gotcha.
It can be a little unreliable at times. But but no, that's awesome. Did it take you a little while to get to that point?
It took me 4 years.
4 years. That's
4 years. Like, and I never really I want to say agnostic theist, but at that point I wasn't into organized religion. Like I had already decided that Jesus was not a real person and things like that, but I still wanted to believe in a God or something. So that's what it took me a while to actually disassociate myself from that belief. So.
Yeah, well, that'll make Beth happy because so Beth and I have this thing where I became an atheist almost virtually overnight. Like I think it might have been 2 weeks max before I kind of divested myself, and I was like evangelical Calvinist, telling my 7-year-old brother you're gonna go to hell if you don't repent and that kind of shit, and then kind of just went poof. Wow, damn, that's all fake. I'm an atheist. So whereas Beth did the whole 10 years, and she did I'll try this denomination and that denomination, and next I'll try some woo and the whole go through some of everything before she.
Well, when I was younger, whenever I was 17, I was Wiccan, but I did some of that too. I still had Christian beliefs, but I was Wiccan. So it was because they kind of if people don't understand it, those things kind of coincide with one another. Because,
they do. Well,
you have
Christianity steals from it anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, they're pretty much like this. So, and then I found out whenever I was 18 that my family, my heritage, is Jewish. So I was like, well, that's interesting. And so I tried out Judaism for 6 months, but it was so they had so many rules. I was like, yeah, fuck that. So I just stuck with Christianity, and then I watched that Religulous, and then that's whenever that all happened. So I did look at different religions, but for me, it was always Christianity was always the basis for everything that I looked at. So
that makes sense.
I get where you're coming from, Beth.
Yeah. Well, I went to Christian college and was actually studying for the ministry, and I was born and raised Missouri Synod Lutheran. And I froze up.
No, you're okay.
I think that when you're raised in a religion that's not as evangelical and is not as strict, it's a little harder to pull yourself out of it because you do have a sense of community, and they cherry pick everything, so you only see the loving part of everything, and you're like, why would I ever want to leave that? And then you actually read the entire Bible, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why. But when you're a part of something that's evangelical, it's like hate and anger and everything, and you get sprinkles of love, but you get all that anger, and it's when you finally realize it might be quicker for some. Now it depends on the cult that you're in, but I think that it might be easier when you're in that to be like, I don't want to be that way,
Well, it makes sense because the church that I was actually raised in is, you wouldn't be familiar with it, but it's the United Church of Canada, which is arguably the most liberal Christian denomination on the planet. Really liberal. They incorporated female ministers in 1932, and they were the first to have gay clergy and the first to accept gay marriage, and it's really liberal. But I was convinced to join the Calvinists by a friend I went to school with who was raised in that. So I'd never thought of it, but hearing you say that, I'm like, you know, I probably would have found a way to rationalize it a lot longer if I had stayed in the United Church, because it was a lot. It was very cherry picked. Mm-hmm. It was all the lovey rainbow crap, and I remember the first time when I was in the Calvinist sect, where we had a Bible study that said the whole wives have to obey their husband's part. And I remember going to my friend and like, whoa, what was that? And she's like, oh yes, you know, we have to obey our husbands. And I remember at the time going, I don't agree with that, but I was like, I don't know, 15 at the time. So I was like, well, I'm not getting married anytime soon, so I'm just going to file that away. But we're not forgetting about this, because that's up for discussion. And of course, it never came up again because I was too young. But yes, Beth?
I think for me, like, getting out of it, I mean, I went through, you know, I went to Western Methodist College and got into a movement. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. Can you?
It's breaking up pretty bad.
Yeah, we're getting like every other syllable.
Figured. But what I was gonna say, it wasn't until Fred Phelps and Westboro Baptist Church that I really, really, really started to question the moral aspect of it. Yeah. Sexuality, I had already dealt with that. But as far as getting involved in the, let's say, the activism part of it, as a believer, I still, you know, did a lot in that regard. But then it eventually, you know, when I got sick in '92 is when I just really, religions.
Yep. That happens to the rest of us.
Yeah.
So, were you doing any other kind of activism before you got into writing, or was that your first foray into, I need to do something?
Yeah, that was my first actual introduction into the atheist community. I actually wrote an autobiography about my journey into atheism, because I went through a lot of shit as a kid, and I still believed. Like, I just believed that God hated me. So it was quite a journey, and I thought, you know, I might be able to help someone. And then I was sitting there, and my son was young. I think he was about maybe 6 or 7 when I started to really think, you know, there's no atheist children's books out there to let kids know that it's okay. And then I started seeing my friends make posts on their Facebook, and it was like, oh, my second grader came home today and she was crying her eyes out because her friend gave her a paper in art class that said, you're going to hell. And I was like, that's insane. Like, that can't happen. Like, these kids need something, because they are going to get, you know, talked about, you know, in school, whether parents want it or not. It's going to happen because these kids go to vacation Bible school, they go to Sunday school every week. You know, church is a very big part of their lives, and they're going to take that to school. And I was like, that's it. So I sat down and I was just like, I got to do something. And that's whenever the first book came out.
That's awesome. That's great. And we got a chance to read a couple of your books before we got here. So you've done, looks like a couple in a ongoing series called Sketti Tales. And I love it because I know what you're ripping on. I'm so glad someone's ripping on it. Goddamn Veggie Tales.
Yes, that is exactly what I
did. As soon as I started reading it, I was like, I know what this is. Yes.
It was basically the secularist answer to Veggie Tales. And I was like,
in case somebody doesn't know what Veggie Tales are, if you can elaborate a little bit.
Well, Veggie Tales is a really cute, very well done book and video series that Christians have done to basically indoctrinate children that way with religion. Yep. They do Jonah and the Whale. They do, you know, Roman times with like Christians and promoting that. And it's really an awesome series. I'm not going to lie. Like, that, it's great. They reach kids, and it's fun, and they're funny, but
it's a group of anthropomorphic vegetables that go
like
around
the cucumber and the tomato and the potato and all that stuff. Yeah, they actually have eyes, and they hop around, they talk, and I love it. Like, I do. If it wasn't Christian, I think it would be great. So I was listening to Atheist Analysis whenever those douchebags were still on.
Yes. Thank you.
And I was literally talking in a chat room, and we were talking about Veggie Tales, and I was like, someone should do something like Fruity Tales. And then here comes my mother, why not Sketti Tales? Kids love spaghetti, and they call it Sketti. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, boom, flying spaghetti monster, done.
Monster, yes.
So that was the basis of this. And I literally sat down, and I stayed at my computer for 2 weeks, and that first book was done in 2 weeks. Because I was like, I gotta get moving, and all the illustrations are hand done by me. Like, I didn't copy anything.
That's awesome. Well, here I've got the cover for the first Sketti Tales book here. We'll share. So there we go. So he definitely looks like the flying spaghetti monster. But
not quite. He's a little different. Not quite. So I had to. Yeah, I didn't want to rip it off too much.
No. I mean, you kind of go, oh, okay, I get it. And I love because and it also, this kind of reminds me, and how I know this, because I have no children, but it reminds me of the Magic School Bus thing too, because they have their flying time machine that can go through space and time. And I love that their safety helmets are colanders, so that's a stroke of genius as well. You can see in the picture. Yeah, you can see in the picture they're wearing their little colander safety helmets while they're in the machine there, the rocket.
The rocket is
it's awesome.
It's a pasta aeronautic rocket machine.
And it looks like a Parmesan shaker. Yep. Yes. Which is great. And see, this is what I thought was awesome because, and I think that's a trait of children's authors and animators and things where you can make something like this that kids like, but that somebody like myself can read and go, oh my God, that's so funny. Like, because I mean, what they're actually saying and educating is, has nothing to do with me because I already know that stuff, but I can read it and go, oh, that's too cute. Right. So I loved that. Like there was a lot of things that I was able to kind of pick out of it for sure.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of Doctor Who references. I even had a Ninja Turtle in there, and I kind of throw stuff in there for the parents reading it, to kind of make the parents relate and have fun while they're reading it too, because a lot of times they're going to be reading it to their kids. So
absolutely. Well, because the perm, like you said, the Doctor Who reference, the perm is way bigger on the inside. Yeah.
I did pick up that reference.
Because everybody likes to remark on how it looks so small, but they'll fit in anyway.
Yep.
Go ahead, Beth.
See, I didn't realize that about the Veggie Tales. I mean, I know about Veggie Tales, and I think I actually kind of watched them. I mean, with, various adopted nieces, nephews, grandchildren, whatever. But I did not realize they came from a Christian perspective.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So I like the fit. Yeah, it probably just never died. I mean, it's been years, so I wouldn't probably.
Well, they do it. You know what, though? They do it so well that you can't really tell. Like, unless you're familiar with the Bible and the actual stories of the Bible, it's difficult to tell. Unless it's like Jonah and the whale. Like, that's a little bit,
Well, I think, too, when I watched them with my nieces and nephews, etc., I wasn't in that mindset. So because, I mean, sometimes when I want to rip something to shreds, I really have to be in that mindset to pick up on things. But I think that's an interesting way. And doing your books the way you are as a competitor, so to speak, of Veggie Tales is a stroke of genius because, and of course, using, Sketti, that's perfect.
And I remember calling it Skettios when I was a kid. Yeah,
totally. I still call it Sketti.
Yeah, and it's something that, like, I actually had feedback from parents where they would say, "Thank you very much for letting my child play at dinner time instead of eating their spaghetti." I'm like, "You're welcome." Like they would literally take their Parmesan cheese bottle and their spaghetti and meatballs, and they would play with them at the dinner table. I'm like, "Did you get breadsticks?" They actually had to go out to the store and buy breadsticks. Never bought breadsticks before, and I'm like, yeah. So. Like whenever I would do, like I would send books out to like signed copies, I would always send like a plastic colander and like a little bottle of Parmesan cheese, just to kind of like, you know.
That's so cool.
And I actually started making the stuffed characters, so I actually can make those. So.
Oh, girl! I just went to a heathen baby shower yesterday. I think we need to talk.
You know.
And you know, I actually crochet colander hats.
Look at that. It's a match made in heaven right there.
Oh. I like that though too, because even though with my background, you know, I come from more of a fundamentalist of evangelical background, my parents, you know, important that we had our meals together, and we always would talk about school. And early or not, my parents were not into the bullshit, you know, indoctrination you get with, you know, homeschoolers. So it was always, well, what did you do in this class? And you talking about, you know, the kids playing with their food at dinner. That's like the perfect time to...
Yep, it's with the family unit.
Because I still play with my food. Even though I'm by
creates
myself.
this conversation, and it gets parents involved. You know what I mean? It gets them involved, and it gets the kids to ask questions. And that's my whole goal. I want kids to ask more questions.
And especially dealing with the, you know, well, evolution and origins. I mean, that gets the kids interested in science. And if anybody knows me, I'm kind of a science nerd, but not as I'm a layman's science nerd, that I'm like intrigued by all this stuff. And that's one way of getting kids into science. And as we all know, education is taking a hit right now, and that's what we need. In fact, is this impetus.
I love that Courtney dedicated the second book to Betsy DeVos.
Yes, I have absolutely adored that, because I'm like,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the second book, The Evolutionary Adventure, was a very, very difficult book to do, because I wanted to be as accurate as I possibly could be for kids. Yep. And unfortunately, with evolution, it's difficult to break it down really simple. So it may look complicated, but I tried to break it down as simple as I possibly could. And I figure parents can actually take out what they want, put in what they want, you know, and kind of do it that way. But if you're going to teach kids, they'll learn. Like, they can learn to say those terms, and it might be difficult at first, but they can learn. And you just got to be, you know, repetitive with it. But that book took me almost a year and a half to do, because I just couldn't wrap my mind around it.
You can tell, like, I mean, I am as much of a lay geek as Beth is in science. I'm not. I'm a history nerd. So while I understand the basics of evolution, getting into any major detail, my eyes start to glaze over, and I'm like, does that have anything to do with Tudor history? So for me to read that, I mean, it made perfect sense to me, and it was entertaining. Like, even though I understand that stuff already, it was entertaining anyway. So that, and I love that you made the Christian kid garlic.
Yeah.
That was actually, someone was on my Facebook fan page before Facebook decided to shut me down. They won a contest, and their child actually got to be made into a character for Sketti Tales. So that was actually a fan, and I made him Garlic Gabriel, and I'm like, it just so happened to be a very Christian name.
Yes.
So I was like, that's like perfect. So I made him Christian, and I did actually get some backlash from the atheist community for putting that in there, because they're like, because my kid doesn't know about God. I'm not teaching them about God. I just want to stick to science. I'm like, yeah, but you have to understand, this is what they're going to hear.
Exactly. They're going to meet, they are going to meet some kid who's been taught that it's the loving thing to do to tell your friend they're going to hell.
And not apologize for it either.
No, because they're told that that's a good thing to do. And, you know, if your friend gets angry, they just don't know that it's a good thing to do and God loves you and blah, blah, blah. And they're not going to know any different.
Yeah, because kids, even in high school, my son's 16, and even kids at that age still say, well, that's bullshit whenever they talk about evolution. And my son just grumbles. You know what I mean? But it's just like, you're going to hear about it. And I was like, if kids, and my whole thing was this. I told the parent this. I said, listen, you can skip it. If you don't want to teach your kid about that, you don't need to read those pages. Like, it's not that important. Those are pages you can actually skip and just continue on with the story like nothing ever happened. You know, or make something up. Like, make your own words up. You know what I mean? So if you don't want to talk to your kid about God.
What would be concerning to me is a parent who says, I'm not going to teach my child about God at all. That's concerning to, at least to me. Now, again, I'm not a parent, but I would think that if your child actually knows nothing about God, and like you said, they're going to go to school and some kid's going to tell them about God, that leaves them, in my estimation, unprepared and could actually make them more susceptible to those arguments, I would think.
Yeah.
Well, it would actually, in my opinion, I think it would invalidate any argument for evolution because they don't understand the quote God concept. There was a video put out by Richard Dawkins. I think his website has a copy of it on there. It is on YouTube. I don't have the link handy, but he actually went into a UK school, and the majority of the students were creationists, and he was trying to present evolution to explain it to these kids how it worked. Now, he did influence some of the kids. It was actually a pretty decent video, but a couple weeks ago I watched this one called Creationist Roadshow. It's also out of the UK. I don't know what's with me in UK shows lately. But these were adults who are creationists, and they were presented with the evidence for evolution as a whole, not just, you know, like specific. And they were like so indoctrinated in their evolution, creationist views that they were just totally like, no, that's just, I mean, if you've argued with a creationist, you know that no matter what you say, it's like, oh, no, it's fake.
Yeah,
I mean, Donald Prothero, I was watching a video put out by Seth Andrews a couple years ago, and he was saying, I mean, some of the comments were like, oh, this is all fake. It's like, I mean, he lays it out like so well, and it's like, nope, fake.
Yeah, but that's it. It's easy for people to do that sometimes. Like, look at Orange Bonehead there. Every time something comes along, he doesn't like, oh, it's fake news. You know, it's the same kind of mentality.
It's like they just don't want to hear it. My half brother is actually a creationist. I took my son out to Colorado to visit my father, and we went out to a dinosaur museum. My son was 4, and he loved dinosaurs. I'm talking like this kid was like insane with them. So we actually took my niece, his daughter, with us, and there's my son. He's 4, and my niece was 15 or 16 at the time, and my son knew shit that she didn't even know. Yeah. And we came home, and he ripped my dad a new one. How dare you take her there? You know that the scientists put those bones in the earth to make us think about the devil. And I'm like, you're joking, right? Like, this is, wow. I could not believe that there was people out there like that, and that I was related to them by blood.
That's insane. That's just.
That's why I think your character of Garlic Gabriel is important. I just don't understand how. Again, like Dub, I'm a step parent, but my stepchildren were in their teens before, you know, I didn't know them as babies. So we were beyond that stage as far as but it's like, I don't understand how anybody could justify the belief that I don't want to teach them anything about God or the God concept or, you know, religion in general. That just seems to me, it just would invalidate their argument. It just...
I wanted to do it from like a teaching standpoint, like Barb was trying to teach Gabriel, like this is how it actually happened. So that was the premise, and I couldn't think of another way to do it without having him be religious, because the religious don't, like the creationists and even some intelligent design people don't believe that we came from apes. So you know, that's like a big thing now, and with Ken Ham and all those fuckwads being out there, like it's pretty bad, and you know, I just wanted to make sure they had a tool.
Yeah.
Going back to your story about your son and your niece, it's like, that is why, and Ken Ham will tell you this, in fact he just did recently, that is why they focus in on dinosaurs. Because they know kids are fascinated with dinosaurs. And if they can sow the seed of doubt in that aspect, they gotcha. And they know it. And that's why he is so adamant about the whole, you know, the whole dinosaur thing. I mean, Ham has an agenda way beyond the whole creationist thing, you know, and people have heard me talk about it. But, I mean, that's why they focus in on the dinosaur aspects. I mean, and pretty much I think all the creationist museums that I'm aware of are like that. That's why, like, there's one, I think it's in Billings, Montana. I mean, they just got I want to say a T-Rex, like, in the last 3 or 4 years, and they made it the centerpiece of their museum, because they know they're going to get the kids that way.
Yep.
So.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what they try.
It really is. And like, for instance, oh God, it's going on almost 4 years ago now, but this creationist guy came to speak at one of our local churches here. And it was actually when I first got involved with the local atheist group. It was the first meetup I went to, because somebody, the group posted a meetup to go to see this creationist guy. So I went, and one of the things, and I mean, this guy was another Australian, and I asked him later, his name was Peter Sparrow, and him and his wife spent 15 years driving around Australia in the creation bus, warping children's minds all over Australia. So he was speaking at it was a Lutheran church too, go figure. And at the end of it, like, he wouldn't let any of us critique him while he was giving his talk. He made everybody wait till after, and then we creamed him. But I asked him even, you know, oh, I know it's kind of cliche, but do you know Ken Ham? And he's like, oh, he stays at my house all the time. I'm like, I wouldn't admit that in public, buddy. Oh, I know. He was all like, oh, yeah, Ken Ham stays at my house. But one of the things that creeped me the fuck out was during his presentation, he said this over and over again. We must, oh, how did he word it now? We must, something about we have to teach our children that evolution is wrong. Like, it was, he had a catchy phrase for it now, and I must be getting old, because it was like, we have to immunize our children or something like that against evolution. But he just kept, and there was like at least 50 or 60 kids there too. And of course he was engaging them and is like, oh, well, does this make sense? And they'd be, oh no. And he was, Jesus loves you, right? Oh yeah. And just, oh, my, at the time I didn't even know them, but my friends and I were just like going, oh, this guy is horrible.
See, and I do want to,
go ahead, Courtney.
I do want to bring this point up while we're talking about, like, the whole kid thing. The atheist community has a person right here that could reach the kids about science and fun and making it fun and history. and they choose to ignore it. They choose not to put someone like me out there while the Christians are out there doing it. And it's like, if you guys really want to combat that, I'm right here. I don't do shit. I'm lazy and I'm sick and I'm, you know, whatever. But I am right here. And that's my biggest beef with the atheist community at this point. And I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I just want, you know, like, it's like I can help. Like, I'm good with kids, and it's frustrating because I can actually reach these kids, and we can have like a community of kids that can come to these shows and be a part of it, because that's the biggest thing we're missing, is a sense of community. Even though we call ourselves the atheist community, we don't have a community at this point. Let's create one, you know.
Well, and if we no, it's okay. I mean, if we take a cue from the Christians, and they're the first one, and the other religions too, they're the first ones to boast how, you know, we're multiplying faster and faster and all of this. And it's because not only are they having more children than we tend to do, but they're focusing on indoctrinating them. And we don't want to indoctrinate per se, but we want to educate. So we want to give kids the tools to make good choices. And that's, like you say, it is kind of frustrating because there's not a real focus on that. It's, you know, it's we perceive the quote community to be just an adult thing. I think. And I mean, I'm guilty of that, but I don't have kids, so it's hard for me to think in those terms. And
well, that's why I say to Morgan and to Amanda Scott, you know, they're still adults, but they're younger adults, and that's why getting somebody like them involved. We have a mutual friend when we were at ReasonCon, Carrie. I mean, that's why we got to get the younger kids in. But like you said, the indoctrination with religion starts at 3-4 years old. I mean, Ken Ham's shtick is, were you there? You sit there and you watch some of his presentations that you can pull off of YouTube, and he's constantly, were you there? It's like, I mean, when you have, and this is where, you know, books like Courtney's, I think, come into play, is one, it's going to open up dialogue, whether it be over the dinner table or you know, like we used to have every Sunday in my house. Every Sunday we'd get pizza. I don't remember if we got wings. I think we did when I was older. But we'd get pizza every Sunday, and we watch Mutual of Omaha, Disney World. I don't remember what the show, if it was called Disney World. And there was a third show we used to watch as a family. Lord help you if you weren't feeling good and didn't want to do that, because that was our family time. And, you know, it was educational. And you don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I have friends who sit in the same fucking room texting each other. They don't talk to each other, they text back and forth. They're in the same room. And that's the I mean, you know, books like, you know, I mean, Courtney's books are geared towards younger, not the teen, but we got to hit them young. We got to, you know.
I mean, I think one of the biggest problems that I had was, I'm not afraid to call atheists out on their bullshit. So when I call Seth Andrews out and David Smalley and Shannon Nebo, when I get into arguments with them, I get blackballed. But I'm not afraid to say, you're being an asshole. Like, you know, because I'm also a feminist, so I also like have an issue with like the Unholy Trinity tour. So for me, I've been blackballed by a lot of the larger name atheists, but I'm like, you guys have something here, and I don't care if you like me. Like, that doesn't matter to me at all. Like, but I've got this thing where I can help these kids, and I'm not indoctrinating your kids. What I'm doing is letting them know, one, it's okay not to believe, and two, that they're not alone. Like, kids might question whether they believe or not, but they might think that they're alone, and they might not voice their opinions, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, hey Beth, that Darwin Dawkins or Darth Dawkins twit is back in the chat.
Oh, lovely.
I mean, we're talking about children's books, and he's bitching about what's the rational argument for atheism. Like, piss off. That's not what we're talking about.
What's the rational argument for atheism?
Yes.
Oh, good grief! Like,
he says there isn't. What I says, do you girls have anything other than mockery that would justify atheism? Well, if we did, I'm not.
No proof. There's no proof that there is a God or gods. There's no proof.
Yeah.
If you were to show me proof, like tangible scientific proof, I will be like, shit, I was wrong. Let's go with that. There has been no proof.
Now explain your rational basis, he says.
That is my rational basis. It's called provide me evidence.
What? No, Darth, I'm not inviting you on. This is a show about Courtney and her work, not about you.
Yeah, don't take away from my children's books. I'm going to indoctrinate your kids.
Yeah. This is not a debate show, buddy.
I'm going to send this guy. I'm going to send this kid.
Now we're afraid. Now we're afraid.
Oh, hey, did he just...
dude.
Am I gonna burn in hell again?
No,
am I gonna burn in hell again?
He wants to know what we're afraid of because I told him I'm not having him on. Hey, look, dude, if you want to do a special debate at another time, fine, but not when I already have a guest. Now, you can watch or you can piss off. It's up to you.
Yeah, now watch the space.
What am I afraid of? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
When you try to kill yourself and you put a gun to your own head or a knife to your own throat, you learn very quick that you're not afraid of shit. So fuck off and die.
There we go.
Well, that
like I said,
quickly.
If you want to arrange something, like I'm a member of the Great Debate community, I have access to the community channel over there. If you want to arrange something at another day at another time, that's fine. But this is not a debate show, and we're not having a debate with some random stranger. Anyway, back to kids.
Yeah. Back to the indoctrinating kids with atheism. Let's go with that.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's okay. You just made a good point. Indoctrinating in atheism.
Yeah.
How do you indoctrinate in? In quote nothing.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. When I first started writing atheist children's books, I actually had I forgot the guy's name because it was a while ago. But he ran the page Hammer the Gods and I think American Atheists. I think his name was Ryan. If I'm not mistaken. But I actually had him post, "It is okay to be a godless me," like cover to ask people for their opinions. And I was thinking, okay, well, they're probably gonna tell me the illustrations are shit, which I get. You know, I was aiming towards kids, so I wasn't, whatever. I am not gonna teach my kid to be godless. Like the overwhelming response from fellow atheists was, I'm not teaching my kid that. I will let them make up their own mind. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't understand that because it's like saying, okay, so here's 2 + 2 = 4. And you're going to let your kid choose between that and 2 + 2 = 6.235. Like, how does that make sense in your mind that you're letting them make that choice? You can let them know about different religions and what other people believe, but you can let them know it's also okay to be godless. Like, it's okay not to believe. Because, they are going to make a choice eventually, but if you actually teach them it's okay not to believe, more than likely they're going to go that path because that's the path of rational. You ask questions, there's science behind it, all this stuff. So, but the atheist community was one of my biggest critics on that.
Unbelievable.
I thought it was going to be the Christians, but it was my fellow atheists.
Wow. But I think sometimes, and I've said this before, that when things like that happen, I kind of chalk it up to a lot of people having been able to divest themselves of the God issue, but not be able to get rid of that way of thinking. especially with people who spent many years as a believer and who were active in various churches and that sort of thing, and maybe multi-generational, you know, hardcore believers. I see that a lot, where people who I think, how can you, like, how does that make sense to you? But if I put it in the context of thinking like a believer just without the God, it starts to make sense how somebody could rationalize things the way some people do.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where they wouldn't want to indoctrinate with an unbelief, but yes. I don't think to me, it doesn't make sense on doing that. Like, I never raised my son with religion. It was just basically based around science, and he's going to be 17 next month, and he's an atheist and open about it. You know, it just never. We went into church one time when he was 4, and he looked up and he said, "Mom, who is that hanging up there?" And it was real loud in a small church, and I was like, "Oh shit! Like, I gotta explain this real quick." Like, okay, so this guy, you know, was tortured and killed.
And if you think of it, like, I can imagine how trying to make that make sense to a child in like under 30 seconds would have been like ridiculously.
It was, and I just said, that's the person they called Jesus. I was like, so we'll explain it later. And you know what? We never really did. I mean, not until he got older, I explained exactly what happened. But I was just like, some people believe.
And it's not the right time to start delving into the finer points of salvation and that sort of theory and why people think.
It's all about age appropriation, which is why some of my books I try to make sure that they are age appropriate. And
yes,
but because
and,
they are going to hear it from their peers. So.
Well, and the other thing which you were saying, the criticism about your drawing, like you said, you draw it all yourself, which I think is awesome. But to me, it relates to a kid. Like, I can't draw for shit, okay? Like, I can't. And to me, as I could see that appealing to a child because it's almost more on their level. Like, not to be like you're a shitty artist, but to me it speaks to a kid's level.
So like, I am a shitty artist, but I really, whenever I did it, I was like, so this kind of looks like a kid drew it. I was like, so this is kind of cool. So my shitty artistry actually kind of paid off in the end. But
that's what I'm thinking.
I got this review, and I think it was a 2-star review on Amazon for the Godless Me book. And the parent left the review saying it was so simple and the drawings were horrible, but my kid loved it, so I'm giving it a 2-star. I'm like, so I didn't write the book for you.
It's the kids. You should give it a 5-star based on the fact that your kid loved it, for fuck's sake.
I was like, give me a 3-star at least. You know, your kid loved it. Oh, you know, if you didn't like it, fine. At least a 3-star. I mean, come on, you know.
Well, I don't know if you've ever seen illustrated adults book. And some of the illustrations can be very elaborate and detailed. A child doesn't have the capacity now, some do, but the capacity to take in that amount of detail, so you want to keep it simple. You want to present, you know, you want to complement your words. I mean, if you're throwing in all this extraneous detail that really does not need to be there, all you're going to do is confuse the child. I mean, I know I was reading, I don't remember which book it was, but it might have been one of the Ghostbusters. It was written for a child. And he would ask me more questions about the pictures than about the story. And it's like, it just, if there's too much there. But yeah, I mean, to complain that the pictures didn't appeal to you when you're the parent reading it, it's like, the book's not for you.
That's right.
The book is for your child.
I was like, when I first started, now Sketti Tales, I got a lot better with artistry, but when I first started, like, I wanted the kids to be inspired and draw their own pictures. Like, I want you to draw it, like, so that I thought, well, if they would see it in there and it was simple, maybe they would try to do it. And then, you know, I made a joke like, you know, but they can't copy it exactly because I'm not above suing a 5-year-old. So, but, you know, like I wanted to make it simple enough for them. And I always had activities at the end of the book, like name the planets and stuff like that. So that way the kids can have their very own book and get actually involved in it.
Yeah, well, that's a neat idea too, actually. I like that. And actually I have, let me pull it up here. The it's the not the title page, but the sort of main group picture from Sketti Tales. I like that one.
On a plate. Oh, I forgot to change the S.
They're so cute. Oh, what's wrong with the S?
I made it more like to match the spaghetti color.
Oh, okay. Oh, the bottom part. Yeah. That's okay. I think they're so cute. They are.
So I have actually developed backstories for each one of those characters because I want to eventually make like different stories for them.
This is like here, like these, right?
Yeah, I actually kind of got a little bit more in detail. Like Sketti Sam has 2 dads. Yeah, Pasta Pete and Bowtie Bob. Breadstick Barb is like the science nerd, and eventually, like I'm gonna do it where she loses one of her parents. So we're gonna talk about her grief. And then Meatball Martha has 2 moms, so we kind of got both 2 dads and 2 moms. And then Tomato Tom is autistic. So I kind of want to go dive a little bit deeper into that, which is why, like, Barb is like, she's kind of like the mom of the group. Like she teaches Tom, and she's very patient with him, and he tries.
Breadstick Barb, yeah. There's Breadstick, and she wants to be a teacher. That's right.
Yes, yeah.
And then we've got Meatball Martha. I love the little bow.
And I wanted to do like a Meatball Martha's recipe book because she's the cook of the group. Like I actually have like lives for these little characters.
That's awesome. You
know, yeah, so.
When I was younger, way younger, there was I think it was a Charlie Brown cookbook. And it had like children's recipes or recipes children could make for like lemon drop candies, peanut brittle. And so that's kind of cool because I still remember that. I mean, we're talking over 50 years ago, almost. And I still remember that, and I still look for it occasionally on eBay. I limit my time on eBay because I get myself in trouble. To try to find this recipe book or cookbook, and so that's a really good idea because I'm a cook by trade. So, food.
I actually I made a compromise with someone because they emailed me, and they were like, "Can you make Meatball Martha a vegan meatball?" And I was like, "Okay, listen. So she's an actual meatball, like she's made out of meat, but she's vegan." So what I have done, like whenever I actually had my website, because I can't afford to keep it up anymore because shit costs money. I actually had recipes every month. I had a different recipe, and I would give the vegan alternative. So we would have a regular recipe with butter and egg, and then I would have the vegan alternative. So that way you get like this nice happy compromise, and you're making, you know, people like vegan.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know,
you could throw an eggplant character in there.
I'm not sure what the eggplant represents anymore. If I want to do that.
Does it represent something?
It represents a penis now.
Oh,
oh, Jesus.
How did that happen?
Okay, you don't necessarily have to use eggplant. You can find a different veggie that.
Okay, do me a favor though.
Or squash.
If you ever get inspired to include an avocado, he has to be a dumbass, okay?
Avocado Archie.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Archie just sounds dumb. No, I'm sorry,
avocado Archie, who thinks he's allergic to gravity.
There you go. Oh my gosh, because I want to do so much with this, because it can go in so many different directions. I want to take them to Rome and Egypt and Maya and and all those ancient places, and let the kids learn about different things that they normally wouldn't have. Like I want to make sure that if I'm doing the pyramids, that I'm actually representing that free Egyptians were paid to build those pyramids. You know what I mean? So I want to make sure that I'm representing history. But right now it's just like I'm lucky to sell maybe 1 or 2 every 2 months. So to me, it's like, so it kind of like flopped, which sucks. But I do want to spread out eventually. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh, because I think they're awesome.
Like, I actually enjoyed reading. I mean, granted, I read them just before the show, but like Deb, I did it so I wouldn't forget, because my brain doesn't work like.
Well, she's got post-stroke issues sometimes, so. And I just have shitty memory.
Like the other day, I went to make chili at work, and instead of 4 tablespoons, and I reminded myself this 100 times before making the chili, I put 4 cups. So yeah, my reading comprehension's a little low. Yeah, I got 2 out, but boss
dear,
fix it. But yeah, so I read it right before, like within an hour or 2, so I could hopefully remember what I wanted to remember. But the possibilities, like you said, taking them, to the Mayan culture, the Egyptian culture, all these different cultures. I mean, you could spread it out. I mean, we were talking about the recipe book. I mean, I think in a way it's exciting. And I hope you are able to develop even more. Because like the more I was reading, I was like, oh, I should go this way. I should go this way. It was kind of cute.
Yeah, because the evolutionary adventure, the end of it kind of left it open, like where they could go.
You did. I was like, what? No.
Well, that's
like they're about to get. It looks like they're about to get dumped into a pot of boiling pasta.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and that's what makes evolution so important. I mean, it is. I mean, especially biological science. It is the root of all biological sciences. It is the root of a lot of sciences, and leaving it open-ended like you did allows for you to take it off into whatever direction you want to go in. And people don't realize you get rid of evolution, you get rid of pretty much all of the biological sciences, including medicine.
Yep.
And this is a question I have to Ken Ham. You hate science so much, why are you fucking wearing glasses?
Yep.
That is based on evolution. I'm sorry, but I mean, you say science is wrong, but why are you wearing glasses?
Yep.
Has he ever actually answered that question? Because people have brought that up to him before.
No, I've been trying for 10 years now, and I haven't gotten any.
I don't think I've ever seen him address that. No.
No, he won't. I've been posting.
Has what's his face? Kent Hovind ever addressed that?
No, I haven't gotten anything from him either. But I follow him more for his sovereign citizen bullshit, not his.
Right.
Because even creationists and religious creationists think Hovind's a crank. So. He's just. But yeah, I mean, I posted to pretty much any Christian that, says, well, evolution is a joke and they wear glasses. Or like Gordon Klingenschmidt, I've done the same thing. He'll sit there and rail against homosexuality, but yet he, the speck in your eye, I mean, he's wearing glasses too. I mean, it says point blank. They don't have an answer for it. And I think, books like yours, and I know there's a couple other people that are working on but have not yet published along the same line. And I think the more people that do it, and like you said, we need to gear towards the younger generation. We need to, for lack of a better word, compete.
Yeah.
Because we are losing.
Well, Booleanator actually has a good question along the glasses line. He says, why do we need tears if our eyes were, quote, designed to work in the air?
Well, their whole argument along that, to answer that, is that happened after the fall. We were created.
We were perfect.
We were created.
Before.
Yes, we were created perfect, and it was because of the fall we have all these issues. That's how they get around that.
So the fact that Ken Ham has to wear glasses is all women's fault.
Pretty much.
Basically.
Yeah,
lovely.
Pretty much.
Lovely. Actually, there's an angle to the whole Eve story. And Beth, I don't know if I told you this before or not, but Courtney, you might find this interesting. My friend who hosts the other show I panel on called Holy Crap, the Vlogcast, Huge and Tribble. On one of our episodes, he came up with the idea, and I love it, that Eve was actually the first critical thinker, because when she was told don't eat from that tree, she was like, well, why the fuck not? I need to verify that this is a bad thing myself. And she did.
Well, that's why I actually...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
No, you go. I forgot.
No, I was gonna say, that's why I kind of appreciate the Jewish proverbs of Lilith, because she was actually technically the first woman. If you actually want to study lore, she was technically the first woman, and she was, I am your equal. I am not your subservient. I am your equal. We are both intelligent, you know what I mean? So, but she, like, they made her evil. And I guess they sent her to the land of Nod or something. Who the hell knows?
Some shit. They had to get rid of her because she was too uppity. And then they had to have Eve come along and use critical thinking and then get every bad shit thing ever blamed on her because she did.
Yep.
Lovely.
I mean, we don't bleed every month because of a natural biological process. Oh no, it's because, you know, she gave Adam the apple. That's why.
And childbirth doesn't hurt because, you know, your body undergoes extreme changes in a short period of time. Oh no, that's to punish you for, you know, wanting to think.
Right. I mean, they called it the tree of knowledge is inaccessible. You're not supposed to know. Don't people think there's a problem with that? Well, like when you actually look at it and you think about it, the tree of knowledge.
Yes.
You're not supposed to have knowledge? Like,
nope. Well, and then the thing that killed me too is, okay, so you're not supposed to have knowledge, but you're somehow supposed to know that disobeying God is somehow wrong, even though you have no knowledge.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's one of the arguments I've heard, like different variations of, like what you were saying, Deb, is that how did Adam and Eve even know what they did was wrong if they couldn't access the tree of knowledge?
Yep.
And I mean, usually, oh, well, they're talking in the spiritual realm is one argument I've heard, you know, variations of that. Or it's not that type of knowledge, and I'm thinking, what other type of knowledge is there? You either know or you don't know. And then you get into the whole spiritual woo bullshit. And it's like, yeah, it's I never fell into woo when I was a kid. I was pretty grounded in science, but you know, I was indoctrinated when I was young. And I never bought the the flood story or the creation story. Well, the creation story maybe, but the flood story especially. And it's like, so that part wasn't so hard to give up, but it was all the other surrounding bullshit. And I you know, like you brought out in Sketti Tales with Gabriel. Yeah. I mean, like we said earlier, kids are going to face that, and they're not, you know, in your book you had Gabriel apologizing. Happen in real life, at least not all the time.
Yeah, I liked that angle where he's like, and the read between the lines of that for me was, Oh, I was just taught that that's the right thing to say. I didn't realize that was going to hurt your feelings. And they felt bad that they hurt somebody's feelings, which I liked. And it was, from an adult perspective, it was obvious why, you know, Gabriel felt that way, because they didn't realize that what they had been taught was hurtful to other people, and the delivery of what they'd been taught could be hurtful to other people. So I liked that aspect.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go with. And I wanted it to be like an apology aspect to it, because I wanted it to be a teaching moment. Like that was that was the whole premise, just to be a teaching moment.
Because on the flip side, if you get invited to someone's house for dinner and they pray and you go, what the hell's, you know, that's stupid, there's no God, it's the same kind of thing that you have to teach, which is kind of funny, because the story I told you guys before we went on the air, I was at a baby shower yesterday. One of my atheist friends and another one of our mutual friends was there with her 2 little boys, and the one youngest boy, who I think he's like 5 or 6 years old, at one point there were other people, like family members of my friend there, and the little boy started going, there's no God, there's no God. And we were kind of like, hey, maybe that's not the best thing to yell out loud in a room full of Orthodox Christians, but
well,
if you go ahead. Sorry, we keep talking at the same time.
I have a lag, so it sometimes.
Yeah, there's a slight delay from when she hears us, so it's hard for her to find the right moment to jump in.
But what I was going to say with the apology with Garlic Gabriel is that you presented a more humanistic, if I can use that, and I found it kind of, not in a bad way, comical, because I do not claim humanism at all. You're very blunt. You know, I'd be more like, well, you're a fucking retard. You should never have said that. You're wrong. You know, that's me. Now, I do temper that situation, but my gut reaction is to do that. So I kind of like the fact that you brought in a bit of the humanistic perspective. It could have gone where she went off on him. And as I was saying, the creationist road trip, that's what it reminded me of. The discussions and arguments.
Yeah, if you notice, Barb never actually says there's no God.
Right.
She never says that. And I did that specifically. Like, I did that on purpose, because I didn't want that to be the actual debate. I didn't want it to center around the belief or non-belief in a God. I wanted it to say, here's the science. And you can look at that and see it for what it's worth.
Well, so that's and the thing is, evolution, and this baffles me with creationists and theists. Evolution has absolutely zero to do with religion or God, or like this idea that, oh, if you're an atheist, you know, that being an atheist hinges on evolution. So if I can prove to you evolution is wrong, you can't be an atheist anymore, which is bullshit. I was an atheist for 17 years without ever once reading about evolution. I never studied it. I quit taking science in school long before we ever learned about evolution. I'd heard of it, and I kind of, sort of, maybe thought I knew what it was, but I didn't. You know, it wasn't a thing. I never thought about it. And yet they're all like, well, if evolution is wrong, you can't be an atheist. I'm like, fuck off. If you prove it wrong tomorrow, I'm still going to be an atheist. So I don't care.
Because here's the thing, though. You can't prove that Adam and Eve was true. And that's the entire premise of the Bible, is that Adam and Eve was true.
Well, we've actually disproven that, because DNA has now shown that the original Homo sapien male and the progenitor Homo sapien female would never have met and were from completely different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Well,
so there's no way.
I think an important point that you make, Deb, and it's kind of underlying your approach in the book, is that, like you said, evolution does not speak to whether God exists or not, or whether there is God.
Any kind of theism or atheism.
Yeah, neither does it speak to origins. And this is one of the biggest things I've been kind of tracking. I'm in one of the Ken Ham fan groups. Don't ask me why I did this to myself. But there are, you know, a few theistic evolutionists in there who fight the Hamites. And there are a few atheists that as well, and it's like they always try to strawman the definition of evolution, and I think you did in a very simplistic way. You basically explained that evolution really doesn't have anything to do with it. I mean, they try to equate evolution with origins. You know, to make that, I mean, it does not speak to origins of life. It is not abiogenesis. And I think in a very simplistic, for a child, you know, a simplistic way, you actually hit that right on the nail with that whole dialogue with Gabriel.
Yeah.
I tried.
By the way, that Darth twit, he was wondering, I think he's actually buggered off now, but he was bugging to see if any of us would go and debate him on his channel after the show.
Give me the link.
I don't know where I don't think he's still there, but if he is, so Darth, cough up a link and we'll talk, buddy.
I don't debate creationists, so
I don't know that he's a creationist. He was going on about wanting to know what our rational argument for atheism was.
I will do this. I will read him this book on his channel. I will do nothing but read him this book, so maybe he'll actually understand.
Because he specifically uses green eggs and ham stunt.
Kind of, yeah. He specifically asked you, Courtney, if you would go. So yes, throw me the link, God damn it, and I will do it. Okay.
I'm in a mood today, so.
Yeah. Our friend Dave, who's Booleanator, who's in the chat, says he thinks that Darth ran away too, but
he doesn't want to debate any of us.
Probably not. He's the one that, oh, we're chicken, but then he's the one that leaves. So
hey, I'll readily admit, yes, I am chicken. I don't like to debate because, you know, I'm kind of a hothead and I don't debate well. Now, if you want to do it on my blog, more the merrier.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not a professional debater by any means. I'll probably end up calling him a fucking stupid shitwad, but you know,
it'll feel good.
It will feel good.
I see. I'm a debate junkie, but he wanted me to bring him in on this show, and I'm like, no. We pick our topics ahead of time. Our guests are pre-invited, and I don't do the whole, oh, I'll just take any random person from the chat and bring them in. Like, I don't do that on the show. I belong to the great debate community. That's where we do that sort of thing. But, oh, well. I suspect he's run away.
Yeah, because I'm not one of those debaters who will sit there and argue point by point the scriptures and all of that stuff. Because all that I have to do is say, you say the Bible is the word of God. So if I disprove anything in that Bible, anything, it's considered null and void. Because you cannot claim that your God is omnipotent or whatever you want to call it. Omnipresent. Yeah, omnipotent. Yeah. Thank you. And have anything be wrong. So
point 1, bats are not birds. Point 2, rabbits do not chew cud. We're done. Yep. The earth is
I would get so flustered I wouldn't even be able to think that because my brain doesn't work that way anymore anyways, but I was never a good debater unless I could do it on paper and think out my answers.
My whole, the one thing I hate when the atheist community does this. They get into this presuppositional argument. And I'm like, oh my God, you're giving them a win. Because you cannot argue presuppositional arguments.
Oh, yes, you can.
Well, yes, you can.
Because they're philosophical arguments.
Right.
So you cannot argue a philosophical argument because then it's basically like saying, if a couch wasn't called a couch, would it be an apple? So you can't argue with shit like that.
Well, you can if you stick to the laws of logic, because that defeat. In fact, Darth here, when he's like, "What's your rational argument?" I smell a presupper right there with that question. I suspect that's what he is.
No, they have no rational argument. They have no logic. They're going to hit you over and over and over again with philosophical bullshit.
But I don't do philosophy, so that's where I get them.
Yeah.
I've taken on presuppers more than once, and that's the thing is, I don't do philosophy, and I am practical above all else. So if you can't make it work in a practical, tangible setting, then you don't have an argument with me, and you can fuck off. So and it frustrates some people too, because I'm like, philosophy is not evidence, so go away with that shit.
Oh, I've frustrated some atheists with that shit too. Like, but science is a philosophy. I'm like, no, it is not. It is a philosophy. It is not philosophy. There's a difference between it being a philosophy and actually being philosophy. Because when you're talking philosophy, you're talking matrix type bullshit, and I can't stand that argument. Would you like the red pill or the blue pill? How about just shove them both down your throat, dickhead? I can't get with the philosophical bull, and it sets me on edge, because I'm like, no, because it's a constant circle jerk. Like, you're just going like this, round and round and round, and you can both make arguments using philosophy, and no one can answer. There's more questions than there are answers with that. So.
Well, that's why I don't accept philosophy as evidence of anything.
I don't
Philosophy is where you get the hypothesis to test to see if there's a fact involved.
Yes.
Philosophy is not the evidence to get you to a fact.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I tell people. I'm like, it fails the first null hypothesis test, so let's just move on,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I actually get a kick out of presuppers. They're fun to fuck with. But,
I would love to see myself debate a presupper, because I'm not one. So I won't get into the intricacies and all of the bullshit with, the scriptures and all the people that they link in the Bible that are nowhere else in history. And I don't get into all that stuff. I'm like, here, let's talk about basics. Let's talk about the flood. Let's talk about the pyramids. you know, like, I'm just like, give me the basics.
Well, and to that point, like, I'm one of those people who, and this irritates some atheists too, but I'm one of those people that I will actually say there is no God, and I know there's no God.
I do too.
And that drives people nuts too. But again, I approach everything from a practical perspective. So when you say, because I get the whole, well, you can't say that because you don't know everything and that's arrogant and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's not. Because when you get up, you don't say, I think the sun's going to rise in the morning because my evidence tells me it does, but I can't know everything. So I'm not going to actually say that. So I'm just going to say that I really, really think that it is, but I'm not sure. And so I'm agnostic. You don't do that shit. You say, the sun's coming up tomorrow. Now, somebody tells me that there's a good reason to doubt the sun's coming up tomorrow. I'll say, I think it might not come up tomorrow, but we don't do that based on nothing. So for me to say, well, I'm not really sure, but I think there's no God, but no, I just say it because there's nothing to tell me that I shouldn't say that.
Yep. Because your knowledge at this point tells you that there is none. And that's how I go. My knowledge at this point, there has never been any proven God, ever. There's no gods, no God, there's no goddesses. Like, any kind of religious dogma out there has never been proven. So to me, that's your hypothesis. It has been proven false. So let's move on. I'm the same way. They're like, what are you on the Dawkins scale? I'm like, I'm a 7, bitch.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I can't stand the Dawkins scale.
I can't either. I hate that.
I hate it because it equates being a hard atheist with being a theist who has no evidence. And that's not the case. A theist does not, we know they have no reliable evidence. Like, it's just not possible. If they actually are honest with themselves and look at quote evidence from a critical viewpoint, they have none. And for anybody to equate that with someone like myself who says, you know, from a practical perspective, there is absolutely no reason to not state that there is no God. That's just not the same thing at all. So yeah, I really fucking hate that scale.
Yay, I'm not the only one. I used to get bashed by people because I hate that scale.
There's 3 of us right here.
Yay!
Yeah. I laugh. I mentioned the Great Debate Community. It's a YouTube and G+ group that I belong to, and it's actually full of everybody. There's different kinds of theists. There's atheists. There's like true agnostics. There's, you know, you name it. No, I don't think we actually let any flat earthers in, but there are young earth and old earth creationists, you name it. And my friend Steve McRae, he kind of manages the whole thing, and we run a lot of YouTube debates and whatnot, and he pisses off a lot of people because he considers himself a true agnostic, and he gets into this discussion over the definition of atheism regularly, and a lot of people are just like, oh, drop it already, come on, and blah blah blah. But he likes to say that I'm a proper atheist.
So my whole thing is this. I'm like, listen, if you take it and you break it down, it's fucking simple. You break down the Greek meanings. A is without. Theism is belief. It's without belief. End of story. That's it. Yep. There's nothing more to it. And I'm like, it's not simple. Stop trying to make it complicated. Stop trying to insert philosophy into this bullshit.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. That.
Yes. Oh, and
go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I wanted to mention really quick, Godless Mom made a group, and it's called Godless Moms and Godless Dads. And it's on Facebook, so if anybody wants to join, you know, it's a safe space for atheist parents who want to talk about raising their godless heathens. You know what I mean? Just for parents to talk and bullshit with one another. So,
absolutely.
I'm an admin, so.
Oh, cool. That's okay. Hey, this is what the perk of being a guest is. You get to plug anything you want. So there you go. And interestingly, and I did finally receive word from Tracy. She kind of fell asleep on the couch. So unfortunately, she's not going to be able to make it. But she actually blogs under Godless Mama. So,
okay, I follow her too.
Unfortunately, she gets and Godless Mom is a Courtney too, isn't she?
Yeah, Courtney Hurd. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
she's Canadian too.
Yes, I know. Alberta, right?
British Columbia.
Oh, BC. Okay, I knew it was out west somewhere.
Yeah.
But Tracy gets mistaken for Courtney fairly regularly. So, but yeah, Tracy's out of Maine, so definitely not the same lady.
Yeah, no.
Well, I think it's important to mention too, in regards to Courtney's books, what Tracy said was that Rachel loved those Sketti Tales books so much that she asked if she and I could at least do the beginning, you know, because of the whole going to bed issue. So, I mean, your books were definitely a hit with Rachel. So, and I you know, I know as being an author for you, that's that type of compliment has to sound good.
Yes.
And I hope it gives you the impetus, regardless of your sales.
Yeah.
You know, to continue doing it. I know I've been blogging since 2001. I really started hitting more seriously when I got 6-7 years ago, and I wasn't working yet, and I needed something to keep myself occupied, basically. And so I started blogging more. I don't, you know, people are like, well, nobody reads your blog. Well, actually, you know, I don't really pay attention to my numbers. I don't care who reads it, who doesn't. But the resource is out there. And, you know, hopefully, you know, people will be interested in what they heard tonight. Check it out. hopefully it will open some doors for you, and it's just keep doing what you're doing, because even though they were written for children, I still enjoyed it, and I think it's something that needs to be done, because there really is, there really isn't that resource for kids. I mean, there's how to raise a child. I know there's a couple how-to books, but it's like you need more than just that. You need stuff in the educational vein, and I know there's Camp Quest, but we need more of that stuff.
Well, that's why I wanted to get involved with Camp Quest, like, a lot, but it's very difficult when you're poor and you don't have no money to give anybody. So it's like, well, what are you going to give me? And they're like, can you give me free books? And I'm like, I can't even buy myself free books. I'm lucky I had the 2 that I had. I think I ordered them whenever I had, whenever I got my income tax, I ordered a couple books. I was like, I got to have them on hand. It's like, when you're poor, it's hard to market because you don't have any money to market and give people free shit. And you're like, because nobody wants a digital. They actually want the physical copy of the book. So. Yeah.
Well, digital worked out fine for us.
Digital copies are good, but they're not very good for signing stuff.
Yeah.
Because I have a number of books. Like, for instance, we had Karen Garst on last year talk about her book, Women Beyond Belief, and she sent us a digital copy so that we could read it, ahead of the show. And I got to meet her in Milwaukee, and so I was actually I was gonna buy one. She gave me a copy that she signed, but I was like, hey, I want a physical. Like, look, I met,
I will say, though, I do have a really great group of close atheist friends that have bought and given them to their children just to give me feedback, because it's important for me to know how the kids like it, because if it sucks, then I'm going to go redo it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to keep something out there that's really shitty, so.
Exactly. No, I think you've done a great job. And like I said, I was just at a baby shower yesterday, and so and I'm like, I think you and I need to talk.
Yeah, and if you guys see Rachel or talk to Tracy and tell her about Rachel, if she ever wants to say hi, I'm always here. So
absolutely, definitely. Because I know she's probably disappointed because Rachel fell asleep. The 2 of them fell asleep on the couch. So I know it's a mom thing, I guess. I fall asleep with cats, but the cat doesn't get too mad if I kick them off and be like, hey, I have to go do a show.
The kid might get mad.
Yes.
I'll be honest. When you posted the link for us, I was actually sitting in my chair here at the desk where I am right now, asleep. So, well, and it goes to a point I think we've made before, is a lot of people don't realize that, like, I'm a blogger and I do the show. Deb does the show and other shows and and other things. I work. Tracy's a mom, and I believe she works from home.
Yeah,
Morgan's a third
year. Morgan's a law student. So
Morgan's a law student. I mean, those of us in the community, unlike fucking Ken Ham, who can spend all day conning people to support his quote ministry, we have lives outside of what we do. I mean, we're part of the community, so it makes it hard. It makes it hard, but it's something, for me, it's something I want to do.
Absolutely.
I just have a day off.
It's like, that Darth twit in there. He's like, have me on your show. You'll get more than the viewers you have. And I'm like, we don't do this for views. So piss off.
Yeah.
Like,
come on, Darth douchebag, have me on your show. I'd gladly go on your show.
He's buggered off. He hasn't replied to anything since.
No reply. Damn it.
Yeah, I know. It's like, okay, if you're gonna sit there and heckle, you could at least like hang around and heckle the rest of the show. Come on. Right? Like, what are you, some kind of half-assed heckler? Like, geez. No commitment there whatsoever. Oh, you should have seen the first time we had Marissa McCool on, and there was some dumbass in the chat who said some what did he say? I don't even remember. He said some like nasty transphobic something, and she ripped
Chad.
him. Didn't we nickname him Todd?
No, Chad.
Was it Chad? I thought,
yeah,
whatever.
I think it was Chad.
Dumbass. But she ripped him a new asshole for like 5 minutes straight. It was beautiful.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you don't want to piss off the Rissy monster. That's for sure. But I mean, like, this guy was here last week and he was doing, what's your rational argument for atheism? And
same thing as last week, because I missed last week because I couldn't stay awake.
That's right. Yeah, he was on with Bryson, Tracy, and I last week too. Yeah, the Brysonator, where we talked about all of the creepy stuff to do with Joseph Smith and Brigham Young and all of their like douchebag moments, extra douchebag moments, like, you know, telling 14-year-old girls that Moroni's gonna ram you with a flaming sword if she doesn't sleep with you.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, that was Joseph Smith's MO. Yeah, but
I can't wrap my mind around those like Mormonism and Scientology, and just like I just can't.
Well, but when you think about it, you know, is reading stuff from magic stones in a hat any less bizarre than talking snakes and, you know, resurrecting corpses and shit? No,
it's really not, but to me it's more, it's not as crazy when you actually like are in it. I guess maybe that's the rationale they use too. It's not as crazy.
That could be.
When you're, cause like, to me, Islam and Mormonism and Scientology is just fucking wackadoo. But Christianity is, while right now I know that it's wackadoo, when I was in it, it just didn't.
Right. Well, and I was taught from childhood that, you know, this Jesus guy was real.
Right.
And everything else that my parents had taught me, for the most part, had been real. I mean, let's skip the Santa and the Easter Bunny and that shit, but, you know, like, don't touch the hot stove. That was a real thing, and that was obviously true. So when they come up with this Jesus crap, it was like, oh, well, okay, damn. And you know, to me, the whole Santa Easter Bunny thing just added to the deception of the Jesus stuff, because you're thinking, well, yeah, because Santa's real and the Easter Bunny's real, so of course, you know, this Jesus guy, why would I question it? And then by the time you figure out that Santa and the Easter Bunny is bullshit, you're so entrenched with the Jesus crap, you're like, oh, well, you know, at least the Jesus guy is real.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I never understood why people made up Santa and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy, for that matter. Like, I never understood why they do that.
Santa is actually based on actual folklore and an actual person.
Yes.
But the whole Easter Bunny thing comes from the pagan religion surrounding what we call Easter, and I mean there is actually roots in paganism, and you know, like the fertility with the egg. Yeah,
but telling it as a legend and convincing a child that this is a real thing, like, I don't know, like, I don't think they actually tell children that Krampus is really real, because no kid would ever leave their house again.
You know,
no adult would leave their house.
I know, like,
I read about Krampus, I was like, holy fuck, I thought Jaws was bad.
Like, have you seen pictures of people dressed up as Krampus? Like, that's some seriously scary looking shit.
As a mom, for me,
yes,
it was the magic of it all. Because as a child, no matter how old they are and how much science and rationale you want to have in them, they still have an imagination. And for me, it was so nice because we were not rich, but I always made sure he had something for Christmas.
Yeah.
It was nice for him to wake up and see presents under the tree, like, wow. Like, it just blew his mind because he knew we didn't have a lot of money. So he was like, where did this come from? I didn't want to disappoint him, you know what I mean? Like, so it was just the whole magic of it all. And the Easter Bunny was fun because you got to hide stuff and they got to go searching.
Right.
And, you know,
but you
so that's the aspect of it for me.
Right. Like, I don't remember ever being convinced the Easter Bunny was real. Like, now our quote Easter Bunny actually gave presents as well as like the whole chocolate. The only one I really remember was one year I got like an actual wooden bat and a baseball glove. And I thought that was too cool and all of, like, you know, kid size wooden bat, but it was like the first one I ever got that wasn't plastic, you know, and thinking, wow, this is really cool. But that was from the Easter Bunny, and we got, you know, the basket of candy as well. But that was like, it was, and I mean, like, Mom just put the presents on the kitchen table and was like, here, that's from the Easter Bunny. I was like, oh, but I don't remember actually believing that an anthropomorphic rabbit had been hopping around the house the same way I believe that there was a guy named Santa. And there was one year, I must have been like 4 or 5, where one of my dad's cousins actually dressed up as Santa at my grandma's and all of that. And I mean, like, it wasn't too much longer when I saw that picture and I was like, oh, that's, you know, cousin Jimmy kind of thing. But at the time I was like, oh, it's Santa. And, you know, he brought presents and all of that shit. But I mean, I don't know, like, I can see using the story to make things more fun and more magical without necessarily trying to say that it's true. I don't know. And like, I remember being actually a little, like, pretty little, because like you start losing teeth when you're like 6, I think, and being kind of actually scared at the idea of like some like weird fairy pawing under my pillow for my tooth. It's like, is she gonna touch me? Like, how's this gonna work?
See, I missed out on that because I lost all my baby teeth when I was like 2.
Oh,
I didn't have any front teeth. I was in a car accident with my parents and I fell off Mom's lap long before safety seats and hit the gas pedal and it knocked all my front teeth out. And so I didn't have any front teeth till I was like 10 years old. I have a speech problem. And it's like, so I missed out on the tooth fairy until I started losing my molars. So I was like maybe 12 or 13.
Oh boy.
And I knew it was my dad.
Well, I knew what Santa was for quite a while, and I remember, so we didn't have a fireplace or anything remotely resembling a chimney, so my mom would always put, like, we had stockings, but she would just put them out on the couch, right? So she would put my presents on one end and my brother's on the other end of the couch. And when I was about 13, I was like 12 or 13, and I've always been a night owl, like always. So I was at Christmas, it was even worse. Like, I remember being about 7 and waking up at midnight going, oh, well, I've slept and that means it's tomorrow. So it's Christmas. And I immediately went out and started tearing into shit. And my dad made me go back to bed. But when I was like 12 or 13, I woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And again, I'm like, well, I've been to bed and it's tomorrow, so off I go. But I didn't want my mom to hear me. So I snuck out into the living room and I didn't turn any lights on. There was, like, we were in town, so there was a little bit of light from a street light, just enough so that I wasn't tripping over shit and whatever. And I went to my side of the couch and proceeded to open everything up. And I I got like a table hockey game and a couple of things. I was like, well, that's different, but oh well. Turns out they were my brother's presents. My mom put them on the different side of the couch that year. I opened all my brother's presents.
Oh no.
And he would have been about 7. He's like 6 years younger than me. So
oh, no.
He was mad. And my mom's like, well, you can open all of her presents. And of course that didn't go for her. I don't want to open her stupid presents. Ah. So yeah, that was kind of, and I was sitting there, I even like put the whole hockey game together, and I've been playing with it with myself, and totally like, oh, well, those are kind of weird, but okay. Anyway, we're gonna wrap it up. I think I know we started late, but Courtney has to get on the way, so we're gonna wrap things up. Hi, Trippin. I'm sorry you just got here. Now we're gonna leave, but next time.
I just gotta get going. That's all.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. I'm kind of hungry anyway. We usually wrap up at 9:30. We just don't usually start that late, so that's okay. Not to worry. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and letting us read your books, which were extremely entertaining. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find your books and where they can find you and anything else you want to promote.
You can't find me anywhere. You can't stalk me. No kidding. You can find me on Facebook, Courtney Lynn. It's a very common name, so look for mutual friends, basically.
I found you.
Yeah. And all my books are on Amazon, but right now it's Sketti Tales, An Adventure Through Space and Time, and An Evolutionary Adventure. Those are the two that are really pretty awesome.
Yay. And we do have a link to your Amazon in the show description. So
yay.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted your Facebook on there, so I just put Amazon.
And
yeah, I'm a pretty guy. I screen all the people who send me friend requests anyway, so.
There you go. I should probably be better at that, but I get too many. I
had like 2,500 friends like a year ago, and I ended up taking like, I have like 160.
Oh, damn, girl.
I was like, fuck it all.
I'm at over 4,000 right now, and I have at least 180 sitting that I haven't gone through yet. Just like, the worst part is, as soon as I go through a bunch, then Facebook starts feeding me to all those people's friends, going, hey, do you know this person? And then I end up with like 20 a day. So I kind of let them sit for long periods of time, unless I happen to see a new one and I'm like, oh, I've heard of that person before or something. Yeah. But yeah, I get a little overwhelmed with it.
See, I'm an unabashed anti-theist, atheist, feminist, so I piss a lot of people off.
I do too, but I still end up with a lot of friend requests for some reason. What makes me laugh though is when I say something that pisses somebody off, and it's not the first time I've said it, but they're like, "Oh my god!" Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, "Where the fuck have you been for the last 13 months that you've been on my friend list?"
Right.
Well, when I first opened this page, I just accepted everybody. I didn't care. So there were a bunch of theists of various stripes that got through. And then, as I say, every once in a blue moon, one of them be like, "You disrespected my religion." I'm like, "Yep, sure did."
On purpose.
Would you like some more of that? I can do that.
Excellent.
Well, yes. Well, again, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yes,
and
for sure.
Yeah. And Beth, where can we find you?
Easiest way is on Twitter, Dune998, and I've actually been a little bit more active on Twitter lately. I've probably pissed off Nom. I got blocked by Dan Brown from Charisma News. Basically told him to go fuck off. I did with Nom too. But yeah, Twitter connects to my blog, Havoc and Chaos on Blogger, and it also connects to my Facebook. And of late, I've been cross-posting basically about the recent law cases, and of course my interest in the pedophile priest, and not just the Catholic Church, because it's not just their problem. So I've been posting a lot lately, and I broke the 10,000 tweet mark finally.
Woo!
Took me 7 years, but there's 2 years. 2 years I didn't really do much of anything because I couldn't.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
But yeah, and I've been posting quite a bit on Facebook as well. So
excellent.
And I'm on YouTube, but I haven't put anything out lately.
Excellent. And of course, Tracy blogs under the Godless Mama, which is not the other Courtney. That's Tracy. And Morgan, God, what the hell's wrong with me? Morgan, you can find her on the Bi Skeptical podcast that they put out every other week. And she is also at MoString, which is M-O. As I said last week, whoever No String is, we're sorry. They're probably tired of getting Morgan's tweets, but that's okay. At MoString, you can find her there on Twitter. And of course, you can find me on Holy Crap, the Vlogcast, which is Sunday mornings at 12:05 a.m. Yes, that's a bizarre time, but we're trying to compete with Coast to Coast Radio and all their woo bullshit, so that's why. And our motley panel of 4 to 6, 8 people, depending who's awake at that ridiculous hour. We'll talk about anything and everything that Shujin Tribble, our host, decides we're going to talk about. So I missed last week because I had to get up at the crack of stupid to go to Kristalla's baby shower, but I should be there this week and gonna enjoy that. And next this coming Sunday, I will be appearing on AM 950 Minnesota with Atheist Talk Radio with our friend Maddie Love and Hertzy Hertz. And I'm going to get up at the crack of stupid for that because they broadcast during church hours. So that'll be fun. So if you're ambitious enough to get up, that's 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 Central. I'll be on the airwaves with actual radio, so that's going to be fun. You can catch me over there. And lastly, as we always like to do, just want to mention the Whitefields Educational Foundation. They are a group out of Utah that promote counseling for people leaving who want to leave religion. And they provide that over there. And the Taylor Scholarship provides funding for people who want counseling but aren't able to afford it. So if you want to donate to a worthwhile charity, we definitely recommend those folks. They were started by David Michael and my Book of Mormon podcast. And so the URL is whitefieldseducational.org /My Book of Mormon podcast. And as you know, our good friend Bryce Blakenagle is also involved with my Book of Mormon. So he's definitely supports this, and it's a good worthy cause. And we have a Patreon. If you feel like throwing us a buck or two, that would be awesome. We use that money to pay for our speaker hosting. So if anybody wants to donate to that, we would certainly appreciate it as well. Next week is our 3-year anniversary show. It's actually the technical anniversary is midweek, but the previous week, but it's the closest show to it. So we are having Professor Stephen back on, and we are going to be critiquing the movie Mazes and Monsters, which is a 1980s anti-Dungeons and Dragons movie. If it is available to watch on YouTube for free, it's so quality, but so if anybody wants to watch it before the show, before we talk about it, by all means do so. It's also available on Amazon Prime, I think for a couple of extra dollars. But I did find a link on YouTube that you can watch it on. So we're going to deconstruct mazes and monsters. So this should be interesting. That was right in the middle of the satanic panic bullshit in the 80s. So
stars Tom Hanks, by the way.
Tom Hanks, yes. Yeah, we have to look it up because I was talking about this to somebody last week, and the comment was, I wonder if that shows up in his IMDb database. I'm thinking maybe not. I don't know, but we'll have to take a look. Internet Movie Database, IMDb.
Yeah, it's on there.
It is? Okay. I wasn't sure if he would be too embarrassed to list that one, but... But I will see. We may end up having some special guests. I don't know. We'll see who's available. But definitely Professor Stevens kind of come on, and we're going to talk about the satanic panic and mazes and monsters. So I think until that time next week, that'll do it for tonight. And we will leave you with our human creed for mankind, courtesy of Foda, who believe is getting out of Facebook jail this week. So there's that. All right, folks, we'll see you next week.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.